Hey guys, my name is Dara. I am a wedding photographer from Kinston, North Carolina. I have been doing weddings for many years and I have seen some crazy things happen at a wedding. And I've seen a lot of brides that are very frustrated on their wedding day when they really didn't need to be frustrated. I am planning and actively planning a wedding with my son's soon-to-be bride, and I have spent many hours talking with her, giving her advice, working some things out, answering some questions of things she had no idea of knowing, and hopefully I'm going to make this an easier day for her. I thought that I might share that with other brides, moms getting ready to plan their daughter's weddings, or couples that are planning their wedding. Hopefully I can kind of give you some advice that will help to make things a lot smoother for you. Today, my first topic that I've chose to talk about is, what do I do first? I'm engaged now, what do I do? Once you have been officially engaged, the first thing you need to do is set your date, or at least have an idea of when you want your day to be. If you're getting married a year, 2 years out, you probably can go ahead and set that date if you go ahead and follow my advice. If you are getting married 6 months or less, you probably need to have a general month that you want, and go ahead and book certain vendors that will kind of dictate when your date will be. Once you got that in mind, the first thing you need to do is to book your venue, and that is the place where you're going to have your ceremony and your reception. If you're going to have a ceremony at the church and a reception at a venue, it's real important that you go ahead and get that venue booked early. They are booked months in advance, sometimes a year in advance. So if you're getting married 6 months or less, you probably need to see what availability in the month that you wanted. If you're getting married a year or more, you probably can go to that venue. If you go early and say, this is my date, can you do my wedding? Once you got that date down and you've got that venue, then you know that's going to be your date. Your groom probably needs to go ahead and be planning the honeymoon. You know, it takes a while to make sure you get all those prices locked in and get where you're going, so make sure he gets on that, because they sometimes like to procrastinate. Another thing you need to go ahead and do early on in your planning, even if it's a year out, a year and a half out, go ahead and look into your photographers. Go ahead and get your photographer booked. There are a lot of things that photographer will be able to do for you all along the planning of your wedding. First of all, get the engagement pictures done. You can use those engagement pictures for your invitations. You can use them for your save the dates. You can have them framed and sitting around at your reception for decorations. And these things need to be done early on. You don't want to wait to the last few months before your wedding to have to hassle with all this. This is stuff that can be done early, and check that off your list. Also, if you are getting married 6 months or less, you may be limited on the photographers that you have to use because of the availability. So really get that photographer nailed down. They're going to be with you all day long, and they're not going to be able to plan either of the weddings. So you need to make sure you get them first. Go ahead and do your videographer. Go ahead and do your DJ, your officiant, whether it's the preacher of your church or your minister, or a hired officiant. You know, vendors that are going to be at your wedding all day long, or that's the only wedding they're going to do. You want to go ahead and get that done first. Check that off your list. You don't have to worry about having to compete with another wedding. You have that done. After you've done those vendors, then you can go ahead and do some of the fun stuff, as in planning your baker, choosing your wedding cake. You do your taste testing and all that good stuff. You can plan for your flowers. You can plan for your catering. A lot of those vendors do multiple weddings in a day, so they're probably going to be able to get to your wedding. So that wouldn't be something you have to do right off the bat. You can do that later in your process of planning, unless it's a small business. If it's a small baker that she only does one wedding a day, then yeah, you probably want to get to her early. Or if it's a caterer that, you know, that's a small business and don't do multiple weddings, then that might be a reason why you might want to book them early. You also, if you're going to be, a helpful hint, if you're going to be getting married less than 6 months, it might be a good idea to hire a wedding coordinator. She can help you do the research. She can help you get things booked. She can get several vendors in mind for you to choose from, and that might help you if you're getting married less than a year. It's difficult to get everything in 6 months, but it is possible. I hope I have given you something to think about. You don't have to do everything at one time, as long as you do them and get them done. I suggest that you get a book, a planner, or get just a composition book and keep everything in. Just get one of those bags or one of those compositions that you can zip up and keep things together. You want to keep contacts, you want to keep business cards, all these things you want to keep up with. And when you talk to a vendor, you want to write down when you talked with them, what you discussed, and go ahead and get that nailed down so you can check it off your list. The more you do early on in your wedding planning, the less hassle you're going to have down the road. But don't book vendors sight unseen. You want to do this early on so you have time to do your research. You have time to interview these vendors. You have time to look at their work, make sure it's what you're interested in. Make sure these vendors are someone that you can trust and someone that you are comfortable being with. Do this early on. Don't wait till the last minute, and don't hesitate to interview these people. Ask them questions. Talk to other brides that have used them. Do these things early on so you can get it checked off, so you can enjoy your wedding planning and it's not such a hassle. Don't assume that it's going to be easy to find that photographer 2 months from the wedding. Don't assume that everybody's going to have these open dates. They're not. You're not the only wedding that a lot of these people have and have been contacted for. I know one year I had one date. It was like the second weekend in October, or I think it was year before last. I had 7 brides ask for that date. Fortunately, that bride had booked me a year and a half out, which is not, it's not something that happens often, but just so happened she hired me a year and a half out, and I had 7 other brides ask for that same date. So, certain things you really want to do early on in your planning, get that behind you, check it off your list so you will not have to worry about it. I will be putting out some more videos to help you make these decisions. How do you find your vendors? How do you know what you want for your wedding? I'm going to kind of give you some ideas. I'm going to kind of give you some helpful hints, things to look for, questions to ask. They're coming up in the next videos. If you'll stay tuned, subscribe at the button below. If you have any comments, if you have any questions, if you have any ideas for a video that you would like to see, contact me. My email address will be listed, and just let me know. Again, I am a wedding photographer around Kinston, North Carolina. I do travel, and if you're interested in my work, my webpage is darabassphotography.com. And I am available for weddings or any other type of events. Stay tuned, share my video, and again, subscribe. Thank you.